Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Nitish here, and we are back with another edition of Breeze webinar. Last time we saw how to get started with Breeze. I'll just quickly go over the topics that we covered. We laid the foundation for what uh, APIs are, right? The link is right there on the screen. You can see it. Uh, you know, so there we started with how in this world how APIs have impacted, right? How they have impacted startup ecosystem, how they have impacted fintech, right? Then we went on to discuss finance, and trading API specifically, and within that, what is Breeze? Where do you find the resources? Where do you find the documentation and so on? Then we took another step back and we looked at writing, code for Breeze. We looked around at different languages. We found Python to be the best choice. We went around looking for IDEs. We found VS Code to be the best choice. We went around looking for virtual environments, what they are, why they are useful, and we found Anaconda to be the best. So then, using all these best practices, we set up our own environment. We set up Anaconda, VS Code, and integrated the Anaconda environment with our VS Code application. uh, then we went ahead and we installed Breeze in a specific Conda environment, and we created an app, generated a session, and we ended with getting data for ICICI Bank futures, right? So, so the attempt was to start from the very basics to answer all your questions and everything, and to really lay the foundations, but also to leave you with something useful. So if you followed that entire video to the end, you would have been able to download at least one set of historical data, at least one call to the historical data API, and ideally you would have tried it again with we tried it with futures. You should have you could have tried it with options afterwards, with equity, whatever you're interested in, whichever script of any kind. So in every video, it'll be our endeavor to leave you with something that you can do, right? Get your hands dirty and get started, right? With the next step. So while we are intent upon covering each and every point of every basic point and not leave anything hanging up there, you have to go and figure out on your own. If you did not know the P of Python when you started this, even then you should get started. But then again, we're not going to spend all the time on just the basics. We're going to be action oriented. We're going to cover the ground that is needed to cover the to get started with an understanding. So that's the endeavor here, right? Again, I'll just quickly answer some of the questions. One question here is, Praveen Kumar asked, when will we get Breeze API for commodity? So that is under development as we speak. Very soon you'll be able to transact both in currencies and commodities um, on Breeze, right? Okay, so that was the only question as of now. So here we see that what we covered in the last uh, time we met. Here is what we're going to cover today, and it's also action packed. We are prepared to show you each and every nitty gritty. So today we'll get started with working with historical data series. So the very first thing in historical data, and by the way, it's like a small inside joke in the algo trader community that 80% of the time that you spend with the data is just dealing with the date time formats. In fact, that was on top of my mind when we were creating Breeze back in 2021, and we decided that each and every data field will simply be the ISO format. Right? We did not bother with any any other conventions, any कि इधर एक type का use होगा, उधर उधर उस type का use होगा. Across live, historical, and all other FNO touch reports, date time format, aankh band karke ISO 8601 format is used, right? So with having given that simplification, and that we went with that ISO 8601 convention. Sorry to bore you a bit, but that ISO 8601 is an international standard, and all languages have libraries that cater to that format. It is not, there is a Microsoft format and there is a Unix time format. No, we're not dealing with any ambiguities. We are dealing with the international standard ISO 8601. So, of course, Python also has a datetime library that uses, again, ISO 8601 as the backbone. So we'll learn how to work with dates and the datetime library. That will be very essential. Then we will write a Python loop. Now that we will have, we'll have gone through dates, we'll go through, we'll write a loop that goes to all those dates and then downloads the data for all those dates. So then we will have a year's worth of data. Then we will take a step back and learn a little more about Python. And believe me, programming is generally about data structures. If you are successful in manipulating data structures, you got half your battle won. The other half of the battle is just your imagination of which indicators you want to use, which mathematical operations you want to use. Do you want to use regression or do you want to use machine learning or whatever? So that half is your imagination, but half of programming is all about understanding data structures. So we'll take a step back and look at some basic data structures. I will explain them to you in code and I will explain them to you in theory. So we'll cover lists, dictionaries, Pandas series, and Pandas data frames, right? Then again, we will take the downloaded data into Pandas. We'll also cover what Pandas is, right? Pandas itself is a whole world. And by the way, since we're already on the topic, Pandas was actually created by a talented quantitative finance guy in ARC Investments. And so Pandas is a data structure which was written by finance people for finance people, and then ARC Investments decided, allowed that talented guy to open source it, and that's how we have. So Pandas is, at one point it was a proprietary cutting edge technology inside an investment firm. So it is by finance people for finance people, right? So that I've already covered why Pandas is popular, because it's popular because it was invented by finance people for finance people. So of course all quant traders, their entire books on how to use Pandas for finance. Then we will take the downloaded data into Pandas and show some basic functions. I've decided not to cover the theory here in this one, although I wrote it down. Let me just give it a glance right now, and maybe we can come back to it in a next session where we do a deep dive into the quant side of things, right? So when we get our hands on data, right? When we get our hands on a chunk of data, what is the first thing that comes to mind? The first thing comes to mind is that you should look at the data, get a feel for it. What are the kinks? What are the characteristics of the data itself? You want to know first of all, you want to know how many rows and how many columns there are, right? What is the size, shape? What are the various averages? What are the data formats? So maybe one field is in rupees and one field is in paisa and one field is date and the other field is time. So you want to understand, is this continuous time? Is this discrete time sampling? So OHLC data is discrete time sampling. So and then you develop an idea of what is the day OHLC and what are the in between points. What is the average closing price? What was the VWAP and various smoothing? Maybe you will want to throw out some outliers. So all that comes under the descriptive analytics. What is the mean variance mode of your data, and so on and so forth. So various ways to describe the data is simply descriptive analytics. You have described it. It's like you had a report card, you had a max, you got a max in math, and you got a min in English, but your average is good enough, right? So that's descriptive analytics. Diagnostic analytics is when you go into forensics. You want to understand. So if you want to understand the correlation between two series, uh, and you want to compare different series of data. So those are diagnostic. You want to find out causation, correlation, and so on and so forth. So that is diagnostic. Now, once you have studied everything, some 4, 5, 3 series, whatever basket of series you have, time series, then you want to predict. Now you want to step into the mode of saying, because oil is rising, gold will fall, or vice versa, whatever else you have, right? So you will try to use the whatever diagnosis you had, whatever hypothesis you have, you will try to go into predictive mode. And finally, we move to prescriptive, that based on the predictive model, you should buy or sell a particular security, right? So we went from understanding the data with descriptive analytics, from diagnostics to really uh, mining the data, and then predictive where you're making forecast models, and prescriptive where you're taking trades based on prescriptive models, right? So I thought we could stay away from this a little bit, because first of all, ये तो वाली बात हो जाती है कि computer, in your every computer class, the first thing they tell you is input क्या होता है, output क्या होता है, CPU क्या होता है, monitor क्या होता है. I mean, you're done. So maybe we should not cover this, or save it for a later date. And right, Stuti Tiwari ji says she did not understand. Guys, if you put specific questions, I can give you specific answers. I hope I'm audible. Put specific questions in the chat, and I will give you specific answers. Right? If you just didn't understand, I don't know. I mean, I've already talked about 15 different things. Anyway, coming back, we finally will get back into the action. We get back into the action mode. We'll take the download, in step 3, when we have written a loop that downloads a long range of data. We'll take that into Pandas and show some basic functions that are used for time series analysis, and then I will leave you with that today. I will also leave you with the link to Pandas documentation, where they have various time series functions built in, and you can try applying and playing around with that, right? So today we will end. By the time you end today's session, whenever you watch it, by the way, whenever you watch it, you will be able to do some basic analytics, what we call descriptive and diagnostic analysis yourself. Okay. With that, we will leave today. Next time, we will go into strategy mode. Right. Next time, we will go into strategy mode. We will pick up a very simple crossover strategy, and we will see how to backtest that strategy using the data that we have downloaded and all the stuff that we have learned on the way. Fair enough? Okay. Let's get started. Of course, I have prepared, so therefore, I already have code already written with me. But what we will do today is we'll start afresh. Okay. We'll start a fresh file, and I'll copy paste as we go along, so you don't get lost. Okay. So first, what we in fact, the very first time, what did we learn? Wait, let me increase the font size here. Let's see how big this becomes. Okay, it's still a little blurry. I think this should be good enough. Yeah, I can see it even on my phone screen. So in the very first session, or in fact the last session, we understood how to create a session and download one line of data. So let's pick up from this much, and we will call it tutorial 2.py. Again, I'll show you one thing. Remember, when you started your Conda, if you followed all the instructions as we gave them last time in our last video, you will see that on the bottom right corner of your Visual Studio Code, you should see Breeze Conda environment. We had installed Anaconda, and in Anaconda, we had created a Breeze environment. And in this Breeze environment, we have installed all the libraries we need. So you need to make sure that this is you have Conda Breeze here. Otherwise, go back to our last video. and follow the instructions as we gave. And in case you have any queries whatsoever, let me reiterate, we are always available at Breeze API at the rate ICICI securities.com. I hope you can see this address, right? Note it down. We are always available at Breeze API at the rate icicidirect.com. Send over your code or whatever your query is. And if need be, we'll even get on a video call with you, right, to solve your issues with Breeze. So, okay, going back. Last time we had an app key, secret key, and we created a session token. So today, of course, my session token from last week has expired. I need to go back. I need to go into ICICI Securities. So I'm going to icicidirect.com. I go to login. And this is, by the way, this is the easiest way of creating your tokens and such. You see, I have my phone. I open my all-in-one app, right? I have my biometric login. I didn't need to type any password. Got it. I go to the menu section on the bottom right corner, and on the top, I see scan for web login. So I simply do scan for web login. You see the QR code I already have on my screen. I scan this QR code, and that's it. Without touching a single key or anything, I'm logged in. Okay. Now here on this page, if you want to see it bigger, you see this Breeze API tile here, right? In bang in the middle of FNO section. This is FNO section. Look on the upper left corner. Bang in the middle of the screen, there's Breeze API. I tap that, and with single SSO login, I'm there. Now I view my apps. The app I created last time was called Data App. Okay. Uh, I had made it active, deactive after the session, but today I have activated it again. I go to login. I put my login ID. In, agree to the terms, logging in, and now it's asking for the Google Authenticator number, right? So now I'm putting in my Google Authenticator number. All right. Now in my URL, I will see a number. I pick that number up, and that is my session token. All right. So now I have some working code. I have, let me kill all the terminals I have. So we start afresh. Right. So first, with the first line, again, let me quickly explain. From the first line, we are importing the library into our Python this thing, runtime. Here, I'm just creating variables called app key, secret key. Here, again, to the object that I created, I'm creating an object called Breeze, which will handle everything that I need to do over Breeze. And to this object, I will give the, I've already given the app key, I'll now give the secret key and session token and ask it to generate a session for me. Now it is generating a session for me. Done. See, in the console below, there was no error returned. If there's no error returned, that means the session has been created. Done. So good, so far, so good. Now for today's session, we don't want to just get one line of data, right? That's what we did last time. And I was take care with that. So today, okay, so let's do that. Let's do what we did last time. Okay, एक बार कर ही लेते हैं, so that I can show you a few things, few fun things, a few important things. Now, with this line very quickly, what I've done is I've downloaded 1 minute candle size from from 8:15 to 8:17. So note this is 7 a.m. right? So 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. मतलब कि 17th का आएगा नहीं data because nothing has traded at before 7 a.m. So at best it will be 15th trade data and 16th trade data, depending on whether trades happened on those days or not. But here, what I wanted to show you by doing this is a very cool little thing. There's a utility, I would call it, right? So it's a super utility or whatever, I don't know what did I call it in my notes. I call it a power tool. So there's a power tool available called it's simply type. So you see here, I asked Breeze to give me historical data, but I don't know which format has been returned to me, right? It could have been in any format. All the closing price in one line, all the opening, opens in one line, and so on. Or it could be like, other data formats. It could be a grid, it could be a CSV, whatever. What I want to know is what is the data type. Now, here again, let me give you a chota sa gyan, chota sa basic on about Python itself, right? About Python itself, you need to know that in Python, in the programming language, everything is an object. Everything is an object. Now, let me tell you how this is different. If you remember C or C++, in C, if you create an integer variable, int a is equal to 1, that 1 is just a value somewhere in the, that 1 is simply a value somewhere in the memory, at some memory address, right, which we made pointers to, if you remember. If you didn't, don't remember, forget about it. But in most languages, an integer or any data type is actually just a data type. Here, a data type is an object. Okay. So let's say type, what is the type of the number 1? It's a class. See, down there it says, on the lower left-hand side, it says a class. So why is it a class? I mean, because Python has built certain functions that you can use with every data type. It has functions, it has properties, some internal properties which are not exposed to you and you cannot use therefore, and some will be exposed to you and you can use. We will see that a little later. But right now, I just want to understand what has been returned to me by Breeze. So I go type of edge data, it says dict. Okay. Dict has, so a dictionary, we will see, we'll go into dictionaries also later. Dictionaries usually are usually a list of key value pairs. What did I just say? Key and value pairs, right? So how do you know what are the keys and values inside this? So what you can simply do is h data dot keys, and you can ask h data dot values. So, okay, so I see H data has 3 keys, and the 3 keys names are error, status, and success. Okay, let me not do H dot values. Let's take another route, right? Let's ask H data what is the type of H data. Let me just copy this. Of the variable called error, of the key called error, of the key called status, and of the key called success. So first I queried, by using type, I queried what is the data type of H data. It turned out it was a dictionary. So dictionaries have keys, so it has 3 keys. Now I'm trying to query what the value of each key is like, is of the type. So the first one is none type. Okay. That means I can probably print it. Second is int. Good. I can probably print it and see what it is. This is a list. Success is a list. So success I will not want to print because then it'll just blow my screen away. I'll show you what I mean, right? So this is usually how you go about approaching things. Now, H data error. Let's just print H data error. So a cool thing you can do in VS Code is you can hold down Control and Shift and select multiple lines at the same time. This is a really cool feature. I always loved it for this. So now I've, in just a few keystrokes, I've formatted the entire thing. So let's see what the value of this key is, of the key called error. None. Is it none really? Is it none? True, it is none. There is no error, so maybe that's why. What edge data status? 200. So edge data 200 is what kind of status? Is through the HTTP status. Remember, we're talking APIs, right? We are still going over HTTPS protocol. So therefore, this is returning the HTTPS protocol return type. 200 means success. Now edge data registers. Now this is a little scary, boys. This is a little scary. This could be a huge amount of data. Oh, there we go. See, it has just returned a huge amount of data. I don't know what to do with it. It has completely wiped out. Okay, some of my stuff is there, but look, it's a huge amount of data. Now, how do I understand what it has returned? Right? I need some basic analytics. So let me use some basic um, functions for that I use for lists. So since this is a list, right? We already saw that, right? You remember, right? This is H data success contains a list. So first we will want to know what is the length of that list. Then we will want to maybe we will want to know what is the first element. First element of like most programming languages, not other than JavaScript, is the first element is always zero. The index of the first element in Python is always zero, and this is a nice little trick. The last element of a list in Python can be called by minus one. You don't need to know the number. You can just do minus one. So first, let's see the length. Length is 375, right? So we must have exactly 1 day's data, right? Because there are 375 minutes in one trading day on NSE. The first element we see, as we thought it would be, it's the date time. Here, look at the bottom. Date time is 16th 9:15. So it's the very first candle of the day. And for the last one, we will expect the last candle of the day, right? Correct, correct. So this is the last element of that is yes. And we also in doing this, we also see that this is a list of dictionaries, right? Just as ऊपर हमने देखा था, this is a list of dictionaries with key value pairs. We can also do dot keys here and see what are the fields that are returned by Breeze. So we see close, date time, exchange code, expiry day, high, low, open interest. Okay, so lot of you guys are concerned with open interest, right? Now here you can see the open interest and the open interest change by using this historical data. What is the product type? Obviously, this would have been futures. Stock code, obviously, this would have been ICICI Bank, and volume. So you know, as far as trade data is concerned, the things of most interest to you are high low open, high low close, volume, open interest, and date time. Right? That would be most of your concern. So now we have learned the power of using type. Whenever you're in confusion, so many times it will happen that you're writing a program, you've already created 2 dozen variables, and you've forgotten what was in a certain variable, right? At the time you're programming. You can just easily just use type and get it over with. Right? Now, okay, I also wanted to highlight this. This is my personal preference, but it's proven to be life-saving. Is that I personally prefer to, in my variable name itself, I like to describe the data type so that later on I'm not confused, right? So H data, what did we see? H data is, or at least H data success, right? I'm not concerned about all the other ones. So H data success is actually a list of dictionaries, okay? So therefore, I'm going to say list dict because it's a list of dictionaries of historical data is equal to, I like to name my variables this way, right? Because if I go and I type, this is say list, and then if I say dict, right? So this is list dict h data. Guys, it's okay if you're not following this or this thing. The idea of these webinars is to teach you from the basics. So if you start with the beginning of the last, the previous webinar, and you build it up till now, you can take it at your own pace. Don't worry that you're not following this. I want to explain the theory as we go along, but also I want to make sure that it is of practical use. So don't worry if this feels challenging. Nobody got it in 1 day. Nobody. I mean, there's literally no one you will meet. This is probably like a semester's worth of material I'm giving you in an hour. So take it easy. Take it easy. Okay. Somebody, Mr. Deverin asked, can we do chart-based indicators with real-time data on ICICI Direct? Yeah, chart-based indicators with real-time data. Yeah, I mean, let me just show you. We already have that, right? I, we have something called the watch list. You go on watch list. Yeah. So here, let's say you see Wipro. Here you have all the indicators. So let's say average. So you got so many different types of moving averages. My personal favorite is moving average, multiple moving averages. So let's see if they have that, or moving average band. Yep, multiple. So there you go, Mr. Devverine. We'll quickly get back to our code. Hmm. So we've got a variable with some data, but now what we want to do is we want to loop over, loop through, so that we can do this. And so what have we chosen? We want to get historical data from a certain time to a certain time. Now let's see. So here for now we come to the first main topic is the um, date time library. So okay. So many people like to import the whole library itself, but then what happens is that uh, maybe I'm lazy, maybe I hate Java so much that then you have to keep typing datetime all over. So you have datetime.day. So it becomes a variable datetime. So what I prefer is from datetime library, I import just datetime. Okay. And one other thing that will be of use is time delta, right? So I'll import from datetime import time delta. So why time delta? Let me just give you say this upfront. Okay. Now a date in Python is a different kind of an object. It is not like a typical integer or decimal object that you can just add one minus one because and for good reason, right? Let me just show you. Here itself, let me just show you some scratch work. So let's see, date one is equal to date time. Now, what you need to give? First, you need to give and follow along. This is the fun part about using VS Code is that it's got really good suggestions. So let's say today's date, right? So 2023 is the year. Month is 10. Date is 23. Um, hour is, let's say, at some point it was 3, or rather 15 PM, because 3 p.m. is 1500 hours. Minute, at some point it was 10 minutes and 0. Now here, if you just say DT1 plus 1, okay, date time is imported, time delta is imported, done. So now we say date time is equal to this date time, and you just say date dt1 plus 1, it will give you an error. It will say, why are you trying to add a date to an integer? Right? Why are you trying to add date to an integer? How can you add? How can you add an apple and an orange? No. So the point is that here time delta allows us to define uh, time as a delta as a quantitative object. Let me just show you instead of speaking about. So I will say time delta where minute is equal to 1. Okay. Now I can add this to dt1, and now if you look at the date time that we have given it, let's just look at it how it looks in the console, uh, in the terminal. In the terminal, it looks like datetime and year, month, and so on. So when we say if we add 1 minute to this, like we are in the second line in line number 6, if we are adding 1 minute to it, it will go and add to the 10 and not to the 15 or 23 or 10 or 220. Yeah, let me show it to you. Right now, it has added to the minute only, not to the year. Many times, something useful is many times in a loop you will want to skip month on month, right? You will want to produce month on month. So let's say time delta of 1 month. A month is in already okay. Okay, okay. Month. Week होता है month नहीं होता. That's really weird. A is equal to 30 but doesn't solve my problem. So I guess it's only days and so on. Well, I'll come back to you guys on representation days, seconds, and microseconds. Okay, fine. So maybe year is not this thing. 30, 31. I'll definitely have to put days. So I want to subtract 30 days. I'll go back and subtract 30 days. So you see, it went into the previous month, 23rd day. So on and so forth. Miss the first lecture, we'll get back, we'll go back to it. Missed first lecture, by what name is it listed? By what name? Name is how to get started with Breeze. If you join our Telegram channel, or if you join the support channel for Telegram, you'll be getting these links on a regular basis. If you want, you can note down the link from here. This is the link here. Okay, Mr. Sameer and Ms. Tulika. All right, getting back. So where were we? We were experimenting with dates and finding out, right? Fun around and find out. That's what we were doing. Now we have learned that how to use a datetime object, how to add date, or how to add time to a datetime object, or how to subtract time from a datetime object. Okay. Now we have done that. Now let's come back to our problem. Our problem is that we have a from date. I've picked arbitrarily 1st January 2022, and I want data until 1st January 2023. So what do we need for this? Let's think about it. We need, or rather, there are different ways of doing it. First is the brute force approach. The brute force approach would be to, just for every day you place one call, for every day you place one call, for every day you place one call, and you get all the data like that. And whichever day returns an error or a blank field, you assume that there is no data there. That would be brute force approach. It would not be fun because first of all, it will take a long time. You'll have 365 calls or 366 as the case may be. You'll end up wasting your own number of API calls that you can place, which you could have used to download other data. That would be the brute force approach. What approach we will take, and you can dream up many other approaches. Date time is a very, very open kind of a field. What we will do is we will generate a list of dates between including these two dates. Then we will knock out all the weekends, because we know for sure Saturday Sunday trading nahi hai, so there would be no data there. And then we will go in batches. In that list of dates we will do batch. So 0 date to x date, and then x plus 1 date to x 2x plus 1 date, and so on and so forth. So we'll do that. That will be our approach. So first of all, how do you generate? So now we have to generate a list of dates. So let's call it list of dates. So I'll just copy code from my earlier one. Okay. So now let's look at some helper variables that we create. Okay. First of all, we create a variable for 1 day, because we want to, when we are creating the date, we'll just keep adding 1, 1, 1, 1. We'll ask Python to iteratively keep adding 1 to every day. Okay. Next, we want to know how many total days you want to generate. What is the total one? That will help us give the Python loop a number of iterations, right? So how many number of iterations? To date minus from date, but we don't want to lose 1 day, because in that process we will lose 1 day. So we add time delta 1 day, right? And then we set up a list here. we set up a list to take all those days in. Rishi Kapoor, I have shared the link. You can search for ICICI Direct how to get started with these. Okay. Again, now coming back. So we'll seed the dates ka list with our very first date, DTM from. Okay. Now we go into a for loop. I'll explain the for loop to you. In the for loop, in the for loop, you keep adding to the last position, you add the current day plus 1 day. Does that make sense? You keep adding. Let's just go through it. I'm pretty sure it's self-explanatory, and I'm just I'm overthinking it from your perspective. So let's just do it. We didn't execute these lines. Right. If there's anyone who has any questions so far, you can feel free to put a detail, put a specific question in the chat so I understand what you're specifically looking for. Now let's look at our list. So what did we used to do? We used to first see the length first and last, right? That's what we used to do. So let's look at the length of list DTM dates. Then we will look at the first element of list DTM dates, and then we will look at the last element of DTM dates and get a DTM dates and get an idea of where we stand. Okay, good so far, right? We were expecting a long list around 366. The very first day is the first day that we wanted. The very last day is one more than we wanted. So let's overlook that maybe. Okay, so एक दिन ज्यादा आ जाएगा तो क्या फर्क पड़ेगा, okay. I'm wondering whether to cover list comprehension this time with you guys. Give me a second. Why not? Why not? Why not? So this is it'll be good for you students and job searchers. List comprehension is a very frequent question. So let me cover it in that spirit, right? Let me cover something in that spirit. Now, Python has this feature called list comprehension. The list comprehension is not such a superpower per se, but it is a method, at least to my knowledge, it is unique to Python, and it will be helpful in your interview questions. I mean, that's the reason I'm telling you right now. It'll be helpful in some Python interviews. Yes. So let's just look at what it is. It's nothing, really, it's nothing to be afraid of. All list comprehension, to my knowledge, it does is that it changes the way you create a list. Okay, so instead of what did we do here? We seeded a list. Okay, we seeded a list, or in some cases you will create a blank list, and then you will iterate over some iterator. That's basically what it's called. Range delta days. You'll iterate over it, and you will keep adding things to the blank or the seeded list that you created earlier. Okay, here it's a elegant way of doing things. As people in programming communities like to say. So here you say that in this list, again, here's your for loop. It didn't go away. The for loop did not go away. For I in range 0 to t delta days, so this is your iterator. This is what you iterate over, the range part. For every I in this range, so the I will start from the initial value of 0 and go to t delta days dot days. What is t delta days dot days? It is 366. So 366, and you'll go to the last one, so it will become 367. For every I, add an element to my list such that it is DTM from plus T delta day, which is 1. Remember, that is what we defined it. Time delta, days is equal to 1. Into, so keep adding 1. That's basically all it does. Okay, let's see how it works. Okay. DTM dates, we seeded a blank list. We didn't need to, but we cleared it. But ऊपर हम लोगों ने पहले से for loop run किया था, so we just And now list DTM dates. Now let's look at what our list looks like. Again, we'll do len of list DTM dates. We'll do what's the first element of list DTM dates, and we'll look at what is the last element of list DTM dates. 66. So now we're down one. We did something right here this time. Our first date is DTM from our first date that we wanted, and our last date is again one. So this is actually better. It worked out better for us, right? There's something that we got wrong in that for loop that we did right in this comprehension. So now you know list comprehension. I'll just write it out for you. If my voice, it's called list comprehension, and you can Google this. Most probably you will only get results for Python, only Python results, yeah, because Python, to my knowledge, is the only one that uses list comprehension. So you get plenty of results for list comprehension. I will not spend more time on this. If you want to see how it worked in this case, just rewind the video and go back to it. I'll carry on. So now we have a list of dates that we know what we want to do. Now we want to remove weekends. Now, how do we remove weekends, right? How do we remove weekends? Well, again, here's some happy stuff that Python, the datetime object, has many useful things. So there was a superpower I was about to tell you later, but let me tell it now, right? Let me tell it now. Let's look at any of the dates that we have. Let's look at DTM from. Looks like a simple data object, right? Nothing special about it. Here is the superpower. Listen up. dir stands for directory. In Python, because everything is we just used dir in earlier, but now let's relook at dir. Let's relook at the superpower of dir. Dir is a Python, because everything in Python is an object. So every object will have some functions associated with it and some variables associated, right? How do you know? How do you know? Do you always have to keep going back to the documentation? What if you are like, you like to live dangerously and take chances and you don't want to read the documentation every time, like, a new board. So you use directory function. Now let's use directory function on our datetime object where we have stored our from date. Wow. You see, so it has so many as time zone, combine C time, day, date, So it's got so many things that you can call it with, right? It's got so many things. So here there's one called weekday. Let's see what weekday is. Because in DTM date we did not specify which weekday it was, right? But hello, 5. What's 5? Because I'll tell you what. Because in Python, Monday is 0. Okay, Monday is indexed at 0. So Monday 0, Tuesday 1, Wednesday 2, Thursday 3, Friday 4, Saturday, Sunday 5, 6. So now if I go through my list, I find the weekday of every weekday, and then if the number returned for weekday is 5 or 6, I throw it out. Or if it is less than 5, then I keep it. So now, what I use the elegant list comprehension, and I say for every x in list DTM dates. So list DTM dates is my iterator. I will iterate through list DTM dates. So we've already found all the dates between 1st January 22 and 1st January 23. We will iterate through every date. And if the weekday is found to be less than 5, if x dot weekday is found to be less than 5, then keep it. Then keep it in the list. If it is not found less than 5, forget it. I don't want it. Do nothing. Do nothing. If it is not less than 5, do nothing. We'll automatically skip over all the Saturdays, all the dates that are either Saturday or Sunday. Let me just see. Before we start, we have 366 dates in them. Now we will run this. And now how many are we left with? 260. There we go. 106 days. So now that you are rid of approximately 106 days, that is 106 fewer calls. Yeah, the API, right? So you just saved yourself a lot of time, you saved yourself competition, you saved yourself API calls, which you have a finite number of. We are almost about an hour into it, and trust me, we are almost at the end. Okay. Um, Now what you do? Now one another thing. So you may have different candles that you want to download. You may want to download 1 minute, 5 minute, 30 minute, and if you have so many, then maybe you can resize if you want to be, get the most out of the API. You will structure your calls in such a way that you have to get the most number of candles, because the most number of candles that Breeze will return, and this is a hard limit, it's not a soft limit. The maximum number of lines that Breeze will return is 1000. It will not return more than 1000. And that is so that you have some bandwidth predictability, right? A few of you who couldn't wrap their minds around this, let me explain in a minute. A few of you said, sir, मुझे दे दो कि मैं कोई भी from date दूं, कोई भी end date दूं और data download होते रहे. Right? But neither internet nor services run like that. It is not like a file that it will keep downloading to your downloads folder. Okay, your your Python environment or whatever, it has finite memory. It is not given infinite memory. Okay, your data connection is not infinitely stable. It will keep going in and out. And besides that, our servers also cannot service infinite requests. I mean, I have seen some people who try to create their own database. वो अपना ही historical database बनाने लगते हैं. No, boss, we have the database. Don't worry about having all the data. The data is available and so free. Do not try to become like data hungry. Learn how to use data smartly, right? So therefore, we have to make sure everyone gets the equal opportunity and equal time of our server, and not just one person who's trying to download the entire database. We have fixed the limit of 1000 lines that will be returned. Okay. So again, so quickly moving on from here. So within 1000, this thing, how many 1 minute candles do you have in a day? 375, right? Market opens at 9:15, closes at 3:15. Sorry, 3:30. So that's morning mein 45 minutes plus what is it? 9:30, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? So that's 5 full hours. So 5 full hours. And then you've got 30 minutes more for the closing. 375, right? So that's the number of, oh, I already have that clear. So that is already, so you have 375 minutes in one trading day. Let's say you want candle size of 5, right? Let's say you need a candle size of 5. Now, this is our convention. So the maximum number of days that you can fetch in a single call will be by this simple formula, right? And that comes to 13. So if I'm putting 5-minute candles and maximum number of 5-minute candles and maximum I can put is 1000 candles, then in one call I should not request more than 13 days. So now we know how many dates we can request for, right? And then we check if this is an integer. Yes, it is an integer. Okay. So finally we get down to the download. Now here I will, because of the lack of time, and you guys are also probably tired after the whole day, but worry not, I'm not skipping over any critical part or anything of much learning. It is just that there are many different ways of looping through a list. We already have a list of dates. As I said, you can brute force it. You can download every day in one turn, or you can do something smart. Now, the smart thing is you have infinite variations of it. There are many different ways to do it, right? So I'll just walk you through my system. I won't go into deep explanation of every line here, right? So now I declare a start date. This data is where all my final data will be, is where all of the accumulated data will be. I created temporary variable from, I don't even need to do this, from list DTM dates. That is the list of dates that I'm ultimately going to download. Here, what I try to do is line 82, I declare I take a temporary variable and I say date end is equal to number of max days, that was 13, into I plus 1, meaning the iteration that I'm in right now. Okay. So I'm going to fix my initial start point here. I'm going to fix my endpoint and call for that much data. Then in the last line, you can see that I try to move my start date to the next element. Okay, the element after my date end date. So here I see end date. I find the index of the end date in that list, and then I increment that index by one number, and then I get that date itself. Okay, from that increment plus one, and that make that my start date before I begin my next loop. By the time I begin my next loop, my date start is already there. My date end has to be. So don't worry, guys. You can see the code. You can figure it out, right? I walked you through it, and in between, I will just for my reference, for my visual aid, I will print the loop number and I'll print the start date and end date. I'm using that loop. Okay. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Okay. We see it. We see it working. How do we know it's working, right? We know it's working because in our 0th loop, please take a look on the left side. On our 0th loop, in the first call, we called till 20th January. Okay. In the second call, we started from 21st January, which is contiguous, right? Which is what we wanted. We wanted exactly the next day. And then we ended on 8th of February, and the next loop we started on 9th of February. And it is doing that very well. It skipped here, please see. It's ended on 25th February and it started again on 28th February. So what must have happened? It's a weekend, 26th, 27th. You can see my screen, right? Let's go quickly jump back to December, to February 22. Right. We see Friday is the 25th, Saturday and Sunday are 26, 27. So that's why it skipped. So it worked perfectly in 19. So we started with 0. So in 20 calls, we've downloaded a year worth of data. Okay. All good. So we're already over time, but I will not skip over this part. Okay, I skipped over the loop because loop is just about mechanics. You can get it from anywhere. You can have your own logic. You can have trial and error, and you will learn. But here, let me look at a data structure that is very important: lists. We've been working with lists all this while, right? But lists are a little more involved, and it pays off to know what you can do with lists. So let's say A is a list of 1, 2, and the letter and elephant. Let's go for elephant. Okay. 1, 2 elephant. Is this allowed? Absolutely allowed. Absolutely allowed. You can put anything in a list you want. In fact, let me tell you, let me declare a list of 3, 4. Right? I can even add these two lists. I've got 1, 2, elephant, 3, 4. Okay, so lists are very flexible. They're just a series of elements. Once I've created a list, how do I get its elements? By index. The first element is always index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the last element is, so let's say I have a list with 3 elements, right? So here list A is 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2 index, but it's also 0, 1, 2, and -1. -1 is always said to be the last element of the list. You can actually count backwards also. So let's do a simpler list. A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? This is our list, right? So A0, what will it be? It will be 1, right? What will be A -1? Right? But now what will be A -2? It will be 5, right? So you can count backwards. Basically, I'm trying to say that you can count backwards. So let's just, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, index 3, 4, and 5. If we started backwards, what happens is that 6 minus 1. 5 is minus 2. 5 is minus 2. And 4 is minus 3. And 2 is minus 4. And this is, wait, where did I go wrong? Minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. 3 is minus 4. And 2 is minus 5. And this is minus 6. So I can, so it just helps to know, right? It just helps to know that there are many different ways you can address find elements. There you go. Minus 6 is 1. So this is just playing around with the structure of the list itself. Now, what can a list do? I can do all this for a list, but what can the list do for me? So let's check it out. Let's use our superpower of dir. Right? So dir a. Dir a should tell me that I can do all of this. So another note in the very fundamentals of Python. Yes, Mohit Sharma, it is possible to host scripts somewhere. We'll probably come to cloud computing in one of our later. It's not a subject that we will not talk about, because ultimately after you write your algo, you have to host it somewhere, right? And nowhere better than a cloud. We'll come to that in a later session. So now let's look at this. We see a whole bunch of stuff that has underscore before to underscore underscore add underscore 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 class underscore underscore. Now these are for that object. These are internal objects. These are internal. They may be most probably there are methods, but whatever they are for internal consumption. They're not open to you. Most cases they're not open to you. What is open to you are the functions that have functions and variables that have no underscore around it. This is a convention in Python. You will not see this convention broken anywhere. So coming back, let's look at this. A function in a list you can append, you can clear, makes sense, it's intuitive. You can copy, you can count, you can extend, you can index, you can find. So index is probably finding the index of, right? Index of an element. Insert, pop, remove, reverse, sort. I think most of these are intuitive. You can insert an element, you can pop an element. Pop means like you do with the uh, Mentos roll, right? Or your poppins. That you just take the top one out. That's called popping. The element is gone. If you do a dot pop is equal, b is equal to a plus pop. So whatever element you pop out, you can save. Otherwise, that element is lost. Okay. You can remove, you can reverse, you can sort. Reverse and sort should be clear, right? So let's just play with a. We know a is, so a dot reverse. Now look at it, it's reversed. A dot sort. Now let's look at it, it's sorted, right? A dot pop. 6, it popped 6, but now 6 won't be there anymore. 6 is not there anymore, right? A dot count. A dot count. Count measures the occurrence of a particular. So let's say a is equal to 1 comma 2 comma 2 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5, and then you said a dot count 2 return 2 because 2 occurs twice. Okay, a dot remove 2, one of the 2's is gone. Okay, now if you do a dot count 2, you'll get 1. Fair enough. So with our superpower, now we are exploring superpower of dir function, or the directory function. We are exploring this. Now we have explored lists, right? Is there anything else in lists I wanted you to see? Append, we can see. Let's look at append, because append is something fun. Okay, let's have this thing. List of characters A, B, and C. Now, if you do A plus B, what happens? When you do A plus B, the two strings are concatenated. Sorry, the two lists are concatenated in the order that you told it to. So A plus B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ABC, and B plus A will be ABC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's just do it for the sake of it. ABC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever order. Append, whatever you are appending is appended as a member of the list. Okay, it is, instead of concatenation, it is made a member. So if I say A append B, look what happens. Now B has become the last element of the entire list, has become a member of a list. Okay. So be careful when you want to append. Make sure that you want to append and not concatenate, because concatenation is very simple. So even in what we were doing with you know when we were working with our loop of historical data, we could have appended also. In fact, we did append. Look here. We concatenated. We did not append. We kept the data that we had gathered, and we got a new H data, and then we just concatenated it. We didn't append it. If we appended it, it would have formed like nested or something, become very dirty. Okay. So appending is one you need to know. Next, let's look at dictionaries. I see a lot of you are falling asleep, but um, this is just basics. Without this, you will, at every step you will be wondering why what's happening. So a dictionary is basically a list, but it's a list of something we call key value pairs. Okay, what are key value pairs? So let's say I have very simple. Let me keep it even more simple, and because we're going to see it anyway. LTP 100. Okay. As traded quantity LTQ 20. Okay. OI 10,000. This is a dictionary. It is a bunch of values. Okay. What does dictionary have? It has keys which we can get in one go. And a dictionary has values which we can also get at one go. Okay. So these are the keys and these are the values. Now, now we can, and in this can go on. It can be long. It's a long list of key value pairs. But the idea here is that you cannot store a singular value. No, you cannot do that. You cannot store a single value in a dictionary. It will give you an error if you do. So if okay. Now, okay, this is another good part. The easiest way of getting values, and the way you will see most of the people, most of the time, accessing values within uh, a dictionary is simply to say, call the name. There is a longer way of getting it, which you will see only when you are with good programmers. Okay. It is a dictionary name dot get, and in the bracket, the key of that value. This is the preferred method, and remember to always use this method to access values in a key value pair. Why? I'll show you. Let's say I ask for the close price in A. Of course, it returns an error. There is no key in A called close. There is no key in A called close. Then why should it return a close? So it returns an error. However, if this was in a program, if I was writing a program, if I was writing an algorithm, a trading algorithm, and I made this mistake, my program would crash, causing me I don't know how much how much in losses, right? So what I will always write is A dot get close. What does it do? It returns nothing. It returns nothing. And why is nothing? Because now I can say, is this none? Is this none? So it's true. So I will always say if A dot get dot is none, then A dot get close. And I can assign it a value. I can put a new variable in place is equal to 200. Well, give me. Acha. Okay, so now then if okay, basic mistake. Now I can assign it a value, and to assign a value, I would use this. Okay, we are tired, but yeah. Now let's look at it. Now A has a close value. So now by using get, not only do I avoid an error, avoid getting an error and crashing my program, I also get a chance to act on that, act on that error, right? So this is as much I think we needed to learn of this thing, dictionaries. Now let's finally end with looking at series and data frames. Now for series and data frames, let me just take you to a. Okay, so now we learned what lists are. So let's look at lists are just a series of values. This is a list, and I can even put an elephant in a list. I can do anything I want. Dictionary. Dictionaries were dictionaries were key value pairs. So I can have A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3. So it has to be ordered values. By the way, you can also have even in the same dictionary, you can even have 4, 5, 6, and the values can be D, E, F. So don't think that the value means that it is a numeric value. It can be any value. Okay. So this is a dictionary. Okay. So in lists, what we have are just elements of a list. In dictionaries, you have something called keys and values. Hmm? Right? We saw that. Now we move to something called series. And this is Pandas series. So let's call it series in Pandas. Pandas series are more evolved dictionaries. Okay, let's put it like that. They're more evolved dictionaries. What happens in Pandas series? What happen in Pandas series? Yes, it's key value, but it's treated more like a table. Let's put it like that. It's like a column. Okay, so you're normally by default, if you just give it a series of values, if you just create a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, what will happen is that pandas will automatically assign it an index like a list would. Okay. Now here, if you call this, if you just look at this, it looks like a list with these are your value, where these are your elements. These are your elements, and this is just it looks like a list, behaves like a list by default. But here's the thing: in pandas, you can also give it a name. So you can call. So your index cannot need not just be numbers. By default, there are numbers. Yes, by default there are numbers, but you can even give the index names like cat, dog, elephant, whatever, right? Also, another index you will frequently see are dates, right? So you will see, you know, frequently you will see index as dates. So here now, what did I say? It is an evolved dictionary. It is an evolved dictionary which has not only keys for index, it can also have index for index, a numerical 0, 1, 2 numeric index, or it can also have names for index. In fact, it is so flexible. It will also allow you to have repetitions. You can have this can be a dog and this can also be a dog, and it will allow it. Only problem is that when you try to pick up a value of one dog, then you will have a conflict, and then you are in trouble, right? Then you are in trouble. Then all bets are off, right? So this is series in Pandas. Let's quickly take a look. We've already we'll import pandas and get started. So here with this line we import pandas as PD. If any one of you does not have pandas already installed, you need to go to your command line or C prompt and type pip install pandas. Pip install pandas. So now you've imported pandas. Let's set up a dictionary. Let's look at way to instantiate a series from keys and values. Right? So here we say series A is equal to td.series, and as we imported as td as string. Now we can reference by this thing. We can get a we can get that element by saying future warning. This is something that you will see sometimes in pandas, or rather in Python. If a line of code is giving you a future warning, it is not an error. It will not result in an error. But what it is saying is that in the planned next version of this library, of this function, we may not do things. We will not be doing similarly. This is deprecated in future version. Integer keys will be treated as zero, right? Again, so quickly recapping, what do we do? We had a dictionary A1, B2, C3. We passed this to pd.series function and we got a series back. In this series, we are looking at different ways of getting the values back. Or rather, let me just try to see here. You can simply print. Okay. Here, A is A, B, C are your indices. 1, 2, 3 are your values. Okay. Or your elements. How to get index A ka value? You go series underscore A and pass it like we did in dictionary. In dictionary, we use the exact same method. You can do the same. Again, we use the same exact method in dictionary. But in dictionary, what we did not have was get zero. So zero is a default index. See, zero is still there. Even though you change the index to ABC, zero is still there. One is still there. Two will still be there. Here's a new pandas method. This is a unique method unique to pandas we have not seen before. iLock. This is index location. So now you're specifically saying that index location pe hi jao. Zero is nothing but index location. That's so it will go directly to zero. So even if you had re-indexed it, in such a way that you had, let's say, your indices were wild. Okay, let's say your index was cat, dog, zero, uh, horse, lemon, mango. This was index of your selection. Even then, there is I guess you can call it a ghost index that's always there. It doesn't go away. Is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So when you say iLock, let me separate this so that. So when you use dot get, when you use the this one, when you use this these two, you are getting only. But when you say iLock, you are getting only and only the core, the ghost index or the core index. I don't know the technical term for it, right? Okay. So now I see that we have, it's been more than, I don't know, almost 1.5 hours. We'll quickly finish this. We'll apply SMA in pandas and then I will leave you to explore all that. Oh, there's one more power tool left. Okay, there's one more power tool left. So all you have to do to apply, to convert your entire list data into a data frame, into a pandas data frame, is data frame bracket your list variable, right? Now let's look at what we have done. Okay, let's look at what we have done. So a data frame is okay. Now let's come to data frame. Let's cover data frames here. So we saw what lists are, right? It would be fair. It would be fair. It would be fair to call a data frame nothing but a bunch of series with the same index, right? So now the only thing we knew being that every series also has a name, So we can have a cat series, we can have a dog series, and we can have an elephant series, and these values can be anything. Okay. Let's say these are right. Right. So now here we are divided by column, united by index. Okay. So these are different lists we have. We are different thing, but we all have a common index, right? Our index has to be the same. Now, even if the index is non-numeric, our index is the same. Make sense? So a pandas data frame is equal to, is the same as a pandas series with common index. That is perhaps the fairest way to understand and describe a data frame. And then because you have more columns, so therefore there are more functions available to you. So one of the functions that's available to you is dot shape. This dot shape tells you the length versus the width. So now how many columns do you have? You have 8 columns. How many rows do you have? 17,340. Fair enough. Uh, there is a head function. It allows you to see the first 5 lines, first 5 rows of your data. So our data has close, date time, exchange code, high, low, open, stock code, volume. Okay. Remember, this is not futures data. This is equity data now. If you want to see a different number of top rows, you can give it in as an argument. Similarly, you can see the bottom of your data, right? So this is my last 5 rows. By default, tail will show last 5 rows. If I want to see any different number, I can specify it. So it will show me last 10. If I want to see any particular, let's say I want to see one column only, okay, this has shown me it truncates, but it has virtually shown me the entire date time column. If I want to see only the first date time, I can tell it like this. This is acting like a list. If I want to see the last date time, I can see it like this. If I want to see only the columns, what are the columns in my? I can edge data to columns. If I want to see only my first column, it's close. If I want to see my last column, again like a list, I can show it like this. Here's a power tool, guys, for the 15 of you who are still sticking around at 6:30 in the night. Here's a power tool. You can export data very easily. You can export data to almost, to a whole bunch of different formats. Let me just show you at df underscore h data dot to. Look at this. Look at this. To clipboard, you can literally take it into memory. CSV, dict, you can convert the entire thing into a dictionary. You can convert to Excel, to Feather, which is a database format. I think GBQ never heard of. HDF is a in memory used in big data. You can convert it to HTML. I'm pretty sure it will convert to a table. JSON, LaTeX, Markdown, NumPy, or people record SQL. You can connect directly to SQL. What more can you ask for, right? So here's a power tool. With pandas, you can convert, you can save this data or move this data to any of these, so many formats. How many of these are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 20, 23 different formats. 23 different formats. So and one of the most common things is, guys, everyone loves Excel, right? We all love Excel. So what will it tell? What will it tell it? ICICI Bank data, ICICI Bank, let me say. I've already saved it once, so I'll save it by different name this time. I say to Excel. It's saving, and it's done. It's done. I told it to save it to my downloads folder. So I'll go to my downloads folder. Here it is. That's it. My entire data is here. Now, for people who love Excel and who are, still learning pandas, they don't understand why pandas are, haath nahi saaf hue hain. They're not that comfortable. You can just download to Excel and start using it. That's it right there. You don't need to get uh, too deep into pandas or even Python, right? So now finally we'll do one simple thing. Okay. We'll even leave visualization. It's quite late, guys. 16 of you, one more friend has shown up. What we are doing in the single line is that we are creating a new column. We are calling it SMA 12. Now, remember, we were doing 5 minute candles, right? So if I want to have a moving average of 1 hour with 5 minute candles, I need 12 of them. 5 into 12, 60, 60 minutes, right? So that's 1 hour. What do I want it on? I want the rolling window of 12. I want it on the close price, and I want the average, rolling average, right? This could have been some also. There are a number of other variables available. So I create. Now let me look at H data. DF H data. Let me just look at head, the first five. See, now I have a new column called Pandas SMA 12. Now, here's the funny part. So here you see NAN, right? Why is there NAN? Because this is starting from the top, guys. This is starting from the top. I will see NAN for the first 11 element from the 12th element. From the 12th element, will I start seeing this? So let me see only 12 elements. See, from the 12th element, which is at the index 11, but index starts at 0. From the 12th element, I start seeing an average. Right? I start seeing an average on this 12th. Here again, if you do 13, you see last two because it started. So here we have, in one line, we have done a rolling average of this. So now we are ending the session, guys. In the next session, we will use this rolling averages. We will use rolling averages to figure out moving average crossover strategy. We will backtest it in Pandas only. In Pandas, we will backtest the moving average crossover strategy. And with that, see, here's the thing. Now, with this rolling thing, we have gained a superpower because this is what indicators are. All indicators are nothing but some kind of a mathematical operation on a rolling window. All indicators of that, whether RSI, EMA, SMA, Bollinger Band. Some will be more complex, some will be standard deviations, or there will be mathematical, arithmetic operation. But this is what we need to explore. Maybe okay. Let me see what I can find for next Tuesday. But maybe we can also, instead of doing a backtesting whole strategy, we'll just try to see how many indicators or what, if there's a library where you can directly carry over indicators into Pandas. Okay. So let me see. You'll know it when you get the mail. You can get the link in Telegram. If you haven't joined already, please join our Telegram channel. Again, if you guys are probably still manual trading. If you're manual trading, you need some help, come and join us on our Friday webinar. We do it every Friday evening, the same time at 5 p.m. We start after trading hours, where we can discuss and troubleshoot all your trading issues, right? Are we cool? So thanks, guys. See you next Tuesday. Yeah. Have a nice week.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to never miss an update from ICICI Direct.